Welcome or welcome back to Solo Marvel Champion, where today I want to talk about my Marvel Champions Cube. And you might be asking, what the heck is a Marvel Champions Cube? And I'll answer that by asking, if there was some type of catastrophe and you could only save 3 aspects, 3 scenarios, and 3 heroes, what would they be? This is really just a silly thought experiment because all of your basic cards are safe, all of your modular encounter sets are safe. So in a catastrophe, why would you stop to dig certain cards out of your collection? The answer is because it's a fun thought experiment. A Marvel Champions Cube is basically what 3 aspects, scenarios, and heroes are you fine playing forever. This is more about fun and variability for me than it is about difficulty or power. After you've seen my cube, I'd love to see your cubes in the comments. Let's start with an easy but also difficult choice, and that is the aspects. Easiest for me to cut is pool because we have so few pool cards right now. There just aren't enough to play long term. The second cut is harder because it eliminates 25% of the remaining card pool. Although this might not be as hard as I think because I'd say a lot of people have a least played aspect. For me, and I said this in my deck building video, my least played aspect is aggression. And I say that with a heavy heart because, as I've mentioned in other videos, Rocket Raccoon Aggression vs Ultron is my favorite matchup in the entire game. But if I could save only 3 aspects, they'd be Justice, Leadership, and Protection. Next, we can move on to scenarios. At the time of this recording, we have 41 scenarios in the game, and it is really difficult to eliminate 38 of them. Number 3 is pretty easy for me. I came into the game because of the MCU. The big baddie at the time was Thanos. He's difficult but fair, and I think this is because, since you can see the next Infinity Stone, you can sort of plan ahead. Thanos is always fun to beat, especially if I can do so before he snaps. Number 2, I'm going to save Morlock Siege. In Morlock Siege, there are 7 Marauder villains, of which you're only going to see 3 in a given playthrough. Because of their forced interrupts, I personally feel that the order in which they come out can be really important. So while there are 35 combinations of 3 of these 7 villains, there are 210 permutations of 3 of these 7 villains. A really good example of this is Greycrow. If he comes out first, he's probably not too bad because you won't have expensive upgrades in play yet. But if he's the third to come out, you'll already have your board built up and he can be a lot more dangerous. This is a pretty easy scenario, and the Mutant Slayers mod set is a must because they're the minion versions of these villains. But you can trade military grade out for something more difficult, and I really like using Future Past in this scenario. It's still thematic to mutants and can be really difficult. Number 1 is my most played scenario, specifically because it's so variable. That's Crossbones, and I've been enjoying him in Expert lately. He comes with experimental weapons plus 3 mod sets, and right now we have 79 mod sets in the game. This lets you massively customize Crossbones, even though you can lose some of the theme in the process. And while experimental weapons looks like it's required to play this scenario, I showed in my What If Crossbones video how easy it is to put down any mod set and just call it the experimental weapons deck. This can actually add a lot of fun tension, especially when you know what's in that given set. On Expert, you're going to see at least 2 of them, one when you reveal 1B, and one when you reveal Crossbones 3. It's significantly more difficult to narrow 49 heroes down to 3. These decisions took me the longest by far. I had to balance fun with power, nostalgia, and even how playing certain heroes make me feel. A hero which I consider quintessential Marvel is Spider-Man, and the game gives us 2 Spider-Man heroes, Peter Parker and Miles Morales. I've absolutely had a blast playing both of them. Generally speaking, I prefer Miles for 3 reasons. Number 1, he has the Web Warrior and Champion traits, which opens up some deck building options for him. Number 2, he has Stun and Confuse built right into his kit, although Peter Parker does have a little bit of stun. Number 3, he can run the basic Peter Parker ally, and that's huge. These are 3 really good reasons to choose Miles over Peter. However, Number 1, in the context of this thought experiment, one of the 3 villains I chose has Stalwart, and this negates a lot of what Miles can do. Number 2, until sometime this year, 2023, Peter Parker was my favorite hero from the core set. Black Panther is right now, but it's more like being tied for first than being first place, second place. For those reasons, I have to save Peter Parker. Also, the colors of each hero name on this list doesn't indicate aspect, it's just the color I chose. I next wanted to save a mutant because I definitely watched and enjoyed the 90s cartoon, and I like almost all of the X-Men movies. And I say that having never read the comics. I don't know what was changed, I just know they were fun to watch. At the time of this recording, we have 14 mutants. Something I really like in a hero is when sequencing, plays, and effects really matter. And to some extent, we have that in all of the mutants. So I had to narrow it down to the 4 I think most exemplify this while still being the most fun for me to play. In the order of release, we have Storm from Wave 6, Cable in Next Evolution, Psylocke, and X-23 from Wave 7. I've played each of these in all of the aspects except for Pool, and for one of them, my favorite aspect is Aggression. Since I don't have access to Aggression in this cube, I have to cut her. One of these has a really bad obligation and Nemesis set, so he's gone too. This only leaves 2, and while I do have a lot to explore still with X-23, I'm going to have to save Storm. I really love her weather deck, and that's not something I would have guessed before playing her because it looked pretty unwieldy. But I really enjoy the puzzle of when to change to which form. Do you change for the special, or do you change for the global effect? A lot of the time that depends on the board state, and this really makes it fun for me to play. Finally, I had my number 1 save pick before I even decided to make this video. But, as I was working on it, it actually came down to a choice between 2 heroes. In order of release, they are Captain America from Wave 1 and Spider-Woman from The Rise of Red Skull. Captain America exemplifies the MCU for me just as Thanos does, and I've always had a good time playing him. With Spider-Woman, I didn't even like her the first few times I played her, but I really fell in love with her at the end of 2022. The decision of which of these I'm going to save was tough, but in the end it came down to variability. Spider-Woman, who is the one I had originally chosen, can take 2 aspects, and that really opens up her deck building. So the 3 heroes I'd save from Catastrophe are Spider-Woman, Storm, and Spider-Man Peter Parker. If I made this video a year ago, it would be very different, and if I make it again next year, it'll probably change. So I'll consider this my 2023 cube. And to be honest, it's pretty difficult to choose only 3 scenarios from among 41 and 3 heroes from among 49. So let me know in the comments what your cube would be. Please consider a like and sub because it really helps my channel grow. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a marvelous day.